here that has 9 campuses, 16,000 people. So this sharing and this collaborating and mutual learning together is so critical, and that's what the Lean Nation's all about. And today we have just that kind of sharing, collaboration, and learning and platforming and taking best practices. We have Dave Tucker and Bruce Gladwin with us, and they're members of a company called Promodel. And Promodel is a corporation, is a technology and service company that provides simulation-based software and services that enable customers to make better operational decisions and faster. I mean, speed's the name of the game. We're trying to increase velocity. So the Promodel was founded by Brigham Young University Professor Charlie Harwell. And, you know, he brought the power of simulation to the desktop. When did he do this? He did this back in 1988. This guy was a pioneer back then, trying to get models that weren't so complex, weren't so, you know, cumbersome, bringing it to the average guy. So Dave, Bruce, welcome to the Lean Nation.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So, you know, you guys have been around for a little while. Give me some background about yourself, Dave. Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Well, sure. I've worked over 20 years in aerospace. I worked on the space shuttle program. I'm a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and so I'm a process improvement guy. My last 10 years in the space program, I was doing simulation modeling using Promodel's products. One is their main product, Promodel. The other's Process Simulator. And after I left the shuttle program, they were kind enough to welcome me aboard. So I'm having fun working with other clients, helping them model their processes.
And taking them to the moon.
Who knows?
As a sidebar. And Dave, what's your background?
Or Bruce.
Oh, Bruce, I'm sorry.
Well, I've been with Promodel for about 16 years and been working basically as an industrial engineer for the past 25 years. I did my Six Sigma and Lean work at General Electric Research and Development and also Power Systems. I manage our consulting operations here at Promodel. So we've got a team of guys around the country and really around the world with our international distributors that are applying our tools to companies that need lean transformation.
And so this Promodel package, is this driven towards one group more than another, or is it one size fits all? Or give me a little bit of insight into that.
You want me to take that one, Dave?
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. Well, we have a number of products. Our flagship product, Promodel, has been around really since the beginning, and that was designed, even though it was the first simulation tool for the PC to be used by industrial engineers, it still required a bit of a programming aptitude. Our recent tools have migrated towards tools that anybody involved in lean transformation, lean Kaizens, that they can use. So we have a Visio-based tool now called Process Simulator, which it's very much a fill-in-the-blank approach. Draw out a flow chart, a value stream map, put in the parameters, and ask what if.
So it doesn't matter whether you're a really big company, small company, you have some packages, you have some systems for people to use at any level.
That's our goal, to start with high-level models and show people what can be done, and then allow them to drill down as necessary.
Yeah. And how do you find the business climate out there now? Because, you know, everybody's trying for operational excellence, Lean, Six Sigma, whatever they want to call a TPS system. What's been the acceptance of your product out there?
Well, we've done well, as Bruce said, since 1988, so 24 years. It seems like when the economy is doing bad, we still have a good business because people have to do better, and when the economy is doing better, they have even more money. So our services are called on by lots of different groups. We work really with 4 groups primarily. We do a lot with the DoD, military, government business. We also work with pharmaceutical and healthcare, and then we work a lot with different manufacturing logistics organizations. So there's a great demand for not only the software products, but also at times clients will actually ask us as consultants to just go ahead and build their models for them and help them kind of analyze their processes.
So it's a little bit of of teaching and sharing and curiosity, developing what their specific situation is with each client. Is that what I'm hearing a little bit?
Yeah, that's correct. Usually a client will come to us and say, I'm already having problems, or I foresee one. I need to get some help modeling my process. Maybe their production is fixing to go up from 30 to 70%, and they don't know if they have enough people and equipment to handle that. So they have usually some large issue that's pressing them to kind of examine their efficiency and try to get better. And it's a lot easier to change things on a computer screen than in the real world. So they'll say, could you guys help us make some computer models and answer these questions? That's what we do.
Right. And you know, my ears kind of perked up a little bit because in the intro I was talking about that I'm going to be at Lifespan on Friday talking to 250 of their improvement people. There's a big initiative. What kind of healthcare model? What are the applications in healthcare for your product here? Because that's a real big issue in the U.S. And as the election comes closer, we're going to hear a lot of stuff, and we never hear tangible, tactical things. We hear a lot of rhetoric. So give me the tangible, tactical. How does this work in healthcare?
Well, there's several different examples, but we've helped a lot of hospitals and clinics, emergency rooms, really kind of design their facilities to be more efficient, to get patients through their systems quicker, which is probably near and dear to all of our hearts. If you ever wait in an emergency room for 4 or 5 hours, you know how terrible that can be. So we're helping build models to help them get more efficient. In the pharmaceutical side, we're also helping people to bring drugs and medicines to market faster using some of our simulation tools. And one medicine company we worked with, they're actually producing at a large factory in Brazil, and their orders are going up. So we help them really understand their capacity, whether they could produce and deliver all the medicine that they feel is going to be required in the next year or two because of healthcare prescriptions increasing and whatnot. So we've got a variety of ways we're helping the healthcare and pharmaceutical businesses.
So, excuse me, you're talking about a model for an emergency room. How do you even go about, I don't know much about, the day-to-day operations. How do you even go about building a model like that? And how do you get the accuracy that, because if I was a healthcare, operational person and you're coming in with a model, I'm going to say, you know what? I can see the whole thing happening here. How do you build a model to simulate that?
Well, Bruce, I'll throw that one to you here, if you want to.
Sure. Well, it's interesting because it's very much like building a model of any other system, a manufacturing system, for example. Though we hate to draw the analogy to a manufacturing system, the reality is you can build a model of an emergency room that the rooms are really like the processing stations in a manufacturing model.
Okay.
The patients flowing through that system are like the parts flowing through a manufacturing system. When we work with a healthcare organization, we certainly don't use the terms of parts and machines and processing stations. We try to stay very focused on their terminology. But the physics of the process is very much the same, whether it's manufacturing or service or healthcare. I mean, healthcare actually just a subset of service. And so as far as getting credibility and validation, we do that the same way we do with any model. If there is historical data, then we will use that to create statistical distributions to drive the inputs to our simulation models. If there's not historical data, then whether you use simulation or spreadsheets or any other mathematical-based analysis technique, you're going to have to use best estimates or subject matter experts' best opinions. So we use the same thing, and that you would use in any analysis in terms of the data that's available.
And it seems though in healthcare, are these guys in manufacturing? We're all used to building models. Is that a discipline that healthcare is used to using, building models? Because I don't know much about how they do their operational side. Because it seems like you'd have a long learning curve of kind of showing these guys value streams as you go through this, because as you go into an ER room, all kinds of things can happen. And the complexity that we have of building products, they have a complexity in a very small footprint, and then it branches out from there very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that the healthcare industry in general has been slower to adopt
Yes.
Lean and Six Sigma concepts. But I think one of the advantages of the tools that we have and that other simulation vendors have is the animation component. And animation really allows people who are not savvy with modeling to visualize what that process is doing and to be able to validate in a very natural way whether or not that process is being modeled the way that it is in reality. So we use animation extensively.
Yeah. So now when you do a model like this, and you guys are both Lean Six Sigma and you've been around for a while, do you pull together a whole team and everybody watches this and inputs, almost like you're doing, I'm thinking of doing a value stream where you get the players involved, the people have skin in the game, you throw in a few wild cards of people to say, why are you doing that? And, does everybody watch this model, or is it one person's job, or what happens now when you build this thing?
Well, usually there's one person building the model, but yeah, as you suggest, it's always better if you have a team of people providing the information. So when we work with a business, we've got to have at least one point of contact or perhaps a whole team. Sometimes we can do models on site, and then what you're describing would work a lot better. So if we're on site, then yes, give me a team of 3 or 4 or 5 people, and we'll flow chart out the process, whether it's healthcare, manufacturing, or whatever, and we'll maybe even get a CAD type drawing of the layout if that's what they want to see, and we'll go ahead and start building that with all of those experts. Sometimes we can get the information from them, and then we can just go off site and build a model on a laptop computer and email it back and forth, or show them through the web how the model is running. But yeah, eventually you're going to show it to probably a room full of people, whoever the decision makers and stakeholders are, because they've asked you to create this model for a purpose, to answer some questions. And so after you validated the model and you feel like you've run some scenarios and you've got some answers for them, then you're absolutely going to have to present that to several folks that have said go do this.
And that must be pretty eye-opening, because you're very visual based, and this takes visuality from hand drawings and sketches to almost going to the Gemba, going out to really see where the work is, and almost like the kids are playing in these what are these games that they play, like Sims and that.
Yeah, SimCity.
SimCity. So you're building a little Sim City, and they can see things happening. Is that what really happens?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said that. I was talking to a hospital CEO the other day, and he's been playing with SimCity, trying to recreate something in his hospital. And so we built a little model to answer the questions where he couldn't quite do it. But you're right; those tools are popular, and I think with the technology changing, people are so visual and they want it now. And as Bruce mentioned, the animation is such a neat communication device that when they see that little animated cartoon running, it's just kind of awesome to view your entire process or operation. And it makes it a lot more believable when you can show them exactly what's happening in their world.
Right. And now I'm sure once you have a model built, that you have open parameters that you can play if-then or what-if kind of questions with this to start stressing it and straining it, and then just watch the thing either come to a screeching halt or watch flow really happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruce, I don't know if you want to talk about some of those parameters and some of the things that we do with scenarios.
Sure. I mean, we set up design of experiments, and we try to look at what are the main effects, what are the cross effects of changing multiple parameters at a time. But it really allows you to play sensitivity analysis and say, what are the inputs, the parameters that we really should be focused on? In a Six Sigma sense, what are the X's that are going to affect my Y's, and by how much? And so those are the scenarios we set up.
And that must be very fruitful for... I'm sorry, guys. I've had a tickle in my throat for like 4 weeks. I need to go to some ER room that's running a Promodel simulation, so I get down the right value stream.
That would be good.
But
yeah.
we're going to post some stuff after, because it's hard when we're broadcasting and pressing the envelope of technology, getting two guys, us being here. But we're going to post some stuff on Lean Nation and that of the video simulations after the show, because I really want the audience to see this stuff. And I know our IE engineers here, we're really curious about seeing how this works. Ed, did they give us anything to bring up on the screen?
They sent me some stuff. Nothing on the screen.
Okay, nothing on the screen. So, what are some of the goals that you guys have for Promodel and initiatives that you have going on to help people, because you're really helping people and giving them another tool in their Lean Six Sigma toolkit right now.
Well,
Right.
that's right. Go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that one of our main goals is we really want to help people to fish. In the old saying, rather than give them a fish, we want to teach them how to fish. So we might build a model for them originally, but our goal is that they'll be able to take the tools that we've developed and be able to apply those themselves to be able to perform what we call a virtual Kaizen before they take the risk of going out and changing things on the floor. It would be great for them to be able to have confidence because they built a model and they could see the animation, they could see, for example, what standard working process they need and the effect of placing operators in different positions and so forth. So that's really our goal, is to get the tool in the hands of the people who are able to make the decisions. And we've gotten away really from the detailed programming type of tools, and we have that available for the very complex models that there's no other way to model things. But aside from our Visio-based tool, we've got another tool that's a Microsoft project-based tool called Project Simulator. And the idea there is to simply put some variability on task times and the likelihood of a resource being available or not available. So we really hope that our tools are designed to be able to be used by not necessarily the masses, but certainly the average person who's trying to make a difference in their lean transformation.
So now I'm going to get selfish as a talk show host or a radio show or TV. What am I, an internet host?
Yeah, what podcaster?
Podcaster. Sometimes I lose track of who I am. So I'm going to get selfish now. And we have a 56,000 square foot plant, right? And we're really starting to look at co-locations of machines, and we've done some things. We have some great cells out here where we've done point of use type of things, but our real legacy tombstone is our machine shop, because moving heavy equipment, we have 14, 15 pieces of equipment, is expensive as heck, number one. Number two, we have downtime. And if we don't move them in the right spot where they're, mated up in flow of, maybe they do secondary, tertiary type operations, would I look at a Promodel tool? Would I look at the Visio Microsoft tool? What tool would we look at? Because we've been cutting out pieces of paper and laying them out and trying to do things to scale, and you kind of go nuts doing that. It's the Yankee way of doing it. What would you guys recommend?
Well, the Promodel tool handles large facilities like you're describing a lot better, Carl. You could put in, as I said, the CAD drawing of the whole facility. You can scale it exactly to the same size as your facility.
So 56,000 square feet we wouldn't be buying a rhino gun to go out and shoot rabbits.
No, that's a pretty good size facility, actually. You could do a lot in the Visio tool, Process Simulator,
okay,
but it's more oriented towards models of flowcharts.
Okay.
It does those sort of models, I think, better than a scale drawing type of facility, which is what you were describing. So that's one of the reasons I kind of said probably the Promodel product, because it's set up to work with those sort of large, complex facilities with lots of pieces of equipment and movement. If you want to see people or machines or forklifts going around the facility, that more detailed animation is also possible in the Promodel product. A Process Simulator in Visio has some limited animation. You see movement of maybe the parts going around, if you will, but you don't see everything else moving. Promodel will give you a much fuller range of animation. So just from what you described, that would probably be the better way to go.
Yeah, because Bruce, that the majority and lion's share of industry in the U.S. is small business, 200 people or less. It's 80%.
Right.
It's like 75-80% of our business. And if you look at, the stocks that are traded, the big companies, it's a very, very small number of the actual businesses. So if we went to a pro model, because we're probably an atypical, maybe the smaller end of what you're doing, maybe medium size, what kind of things could we get from that? Would we save time? Would we save money? Would we save, would it be a tool that we keep going back to referring as we tweak out our things? What kind of things would happen? Oh, it's a hot customer call.
It's important to point out that it really depends on what you want to get out of the modeling project. So Dave talked about the use of Promodel. I wanted to comment that you could start very easily with a higher level process simulator tool and probably get 60, 70%, maybe 80% of the value of going to a very detailed model. Now, if you need to model material handling systems, conveyors or guided vehicles or something like that, then you're going to have to go to the Promodel type of tool. But you could certainly start with the process simulator based flow chart where you're looking at a higher level and you're simply trying to answer the questions of throughput, cycle time, inventory levels, and resource utilization. We see those four metrics in pretty much every type of model that we build, whether it's healthcare, manufacturing, a service system like an airport, whatever it is, there's always some metric of how much can we produce in a given amount of time, how long is it going to take us to produce that from start to finish, how much inventory or stuff do we need in the system in order to keep the system running smoothly. Yep. And then finally, how many resources do we need? What should we cross-train them? Should they be dedicated? Those types of questions and those types of answers.
So now when you're talking about these, building this model, looking at stuff, I'm sure you have operational availability in there because you're flexing in and out and you know where you're pulling. Does this record, when you set up the model, does it record historical data? So if I go to a certain cell, I can look at days, how it goes. So you're building bridges between, inventory systems and your regular systems that you have, or how do you keep track of data and historical data? Are you following with me on the question?
Yeah. The
Go
tools, ahead. Okay. Primarily what we're doing is looking at strategic modeling or tactical level of modeling. We're not looking at real-time, day-to-day. We're not in a manufacturing execution system, although we can tie into those and preload the simulation with data regarding what's on the floor today, right at this moment.
Okay.
But primarily we're looking at decisions. Should we add this product line? If we add this product line, are we going to have enough capacity? What type of material handling system should we be looking at? How much labor do we need? And should we cross-train them or not? It's those types of decisions that our tool is really the sweet spot.
Okay.
So it's really, Carl, it's really predictive analysis. You're looking ahead to the future performance of the facility. Like I said, they're either just trying to get better, or they foresee a problem, or they know they have constraints and they're just wanting help. And so as Bruce said, you're modeling, and then you'll allow them in your modeling. You can make a model run a day, a week, a month, or a year, as long as you want, and you can take it out to whatever time you want and say, basically, under these constraints in your process, here's what you're going to get if you run this operation, let's say, for 1 year. If you make these subtle changes over here that we've identified in the model, then here is what you're going to get, and hopefully that picture will be much better, much different. So it is all predictive analytics. That's really what you're trying to get to.
Okay. And that's the space shuttle expert in you coming out. I can hear I can hear this right now. Apollo 13, we have a problem. But you guys kind of set yourself apart, and Bruce said that you're teaching people to fish. and simulations like in our company. I'm just trying to grasp around how do we use the best of tools out there to get quicker answers, quicker results. And the biggest plaguing one that we have is, what does flow look like in our facility before we start moving things? But we may not change our facility for another few years, because if we nail it down pretty good, we'll do small tweaks and things. And so when you buy this software, right, I guess you're buying a seat of the software, you're buying a package of the software. How do people even purchase this? Because I'm familiar with our contact management, our ERP, and then you pay license fees, you do all this stuff, and then you get upgrades. Is this something like you go to Best Buy, you grab it off the shelf, and you buy it once and that's it? Or give me a little bit of the flavor for that.
Well, you're gonna buy it through Promodel. Yep. 188 Promodel. Folks can give us a call. And so it's not for sale in Best Buy, unfortunately, although that's a great idea. And people can also contact us through our website at promodel.com. So those are the main avenues to go and get it. Process Simulator is an easy-to-use product. Bruce mentioned that. It's actually a plug-in in Visio. So if you know how to do flowcharts in Visio, you can start with Process Simulator. And as Bruce said, depending on your objectives for your analysis of your operation, that's a great tool. We actually have done entire factories using that Visio tool, Process Simulator. If you want more animation or your processes are much more complex, then you may want to look at getting the Promodel tool. But you can get those through us. A lot of simulation software companies mainly just sell the software. We're a little unique in that we have a whole consulting group. We don't just sell the software, but we'll also come train you, or folks who come to our training classes on site. Or if they want us, as Bruce mentioned, we can actually send a consultant, spend 3 or 4 days with some folks, teach a class while we're there, help them start a couple models, actually complete a modeling project a lot of times in about a week, if depending on how detailed it is. So there's a variety of services that we offer connected to our software. But folks will need to contact Promodel if they're interested.
And so my initial question, this is a Yankee in me. I buy one box with the package, or I have to buy multiple seats, or, and then you have things that you pay reoccurring cost. You don't have to give me the number, but just what's the model look like, your sales model of this thing?
It's a per CPU license. Okay. So we sell a license at a time, or you can buy a 5-pack, 10-pack, whatever you need. Typically with the Process Simulator tool, the Visio-based tool, we sell those in at least 5, but you can buy one if you want. The Promodel tool is generally, if it's multi-user, it's going to be, let's say, a 3-user or 5-user network license, but you can buy single seat of that as well. There's a maintenance and support cost that's very similar to buying any type of software like this. It's about 15% per year of the base price.
Okay, so it's pretty atypical, and you guys actually add more value to it of the consulting of this, because sometimes people get crushed when they buy a software package. And our CRM, thank God, we have one of the best guys in the country that lives local here in Rhode Island, and Harvard's actually written a case study on it because we've tweaked it out to the max. But sometimes people aren't that lucky, and you guys see this. I'm sure you do mop up and clean up of other vendors out there that don't have as robust a staff to support it. And I'm sure on the front end that, Dave, you guys must do a lot of questions and querying to kind of see what's your expectation, because if the expectation isn't realistic and they think they're going to do this quickly, you fall short.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have to understand what the objectives are of the client. If they're consulting with us and want us to build a model, we write a document that says, here's the questions you want us to help you answer. Here's the goals, the expectations. Here's some ideas for some scenarios. So if we're building a model, we detail it out, have kind of a specifications document, and really lay everything out. So we make sure we deliver to the customer what they want. And as Bruce said, a lot of folks just want the software. They want to go off and play with it a while, and we encourage that. We train them, we cut them loose. If they get in over their head, or if they want help, then they oftentimes will call us. And or a lot of times if they have a short turnaround, I did a model last year. It took about 5 weeks. I sent you a little video on it that maybe we can post later. It's of an entire medicine production plant in Brazil, 4 buildings and 17 production units. It's a huge facility. We did that in Process Simulator, the Visio tool, and it took us about 5 weeks to build the entire model. Well, the guys down there, they bought the software, but they are brand new to simulation. It would have taken them a year or 2 years to figure out maybe how to do that. I don't know. Or maybe they never would, but they needed it right now. So they contracted with us, said, build us the model, answer some questions. And that's just one example. And so from that one model, we were actually able to help them derive a production schedule that will help them run that factory for an entire year. And so through experimentation with that model, we help them identify their capacity, their storage requirements. We help them confirm that they had the right number of people and equipment. And then, as I said, the bonus was we also experimented and helped deliver with them, here's your production schedule for a year. So that was very successful. You couldn't do that or ask a client probably to go to that level of detail of analysis in 5 or 6 weeks. But because we've done this for 20 plus years, we've got a deep bench of experience and lots of other models and consultants within our group we can draw from to get the right solution for the client pretty quick when it's needed.
So you said you did this back in the summer, is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a question. You did this back in the summer, did it 5 weeks, took 5 weeks. How is it meeting their expectation of what their best guess could be, and did they even make any estimations before they built the model, and what was the gap?
Well, they had actual historical data. Okay. So I haven't talked to the gentleman there at that company. It's a major American pharmaceutical company that has this facility in Brazil, but they continue to do business with us. We built a number of models for them, and so not having talked to the gentleman there recently, I'm saying they must still be pretty happy because I understand they're just entering into another proposal for us to do more models. So we've done a number of facilities for this company, and based on what we did early on, we validated the model. It was hitting and matching their historical data. It was a very highly credible and valid model. So the predictions should be good, but you make a great point, Carl. 6 months or a year later, as they're running that thing, we'll see how well the new data matches that model. Yeah. And that's a good follow-up that we should do.
Yeah. And Bruce, you've been out in the field, you've been selling this for a while. Can you share with our viewers just some cool aha moments, especially with people that are new to modeling and things like that, when you've gone in and shown them some things, just some really cool things, because in Lean Six Sigma, when the light bulb goes off and people see things happen, I mean, that's a rewarding kind of thing. Do you have any stories like that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, absolutely. I think for me, the most gratifying project that I ever did was I had the opportunity to use Promodel to help a major prime contractor here in the U.S. To design the disassembly process for So if you remember back in the early 90s, there were these treaties called the START treaties, and we subcontracted with another major defense contractor here that was working with the Russian military of how they would design processes for disassembly of these intercontinental ballistic missiles, because there were stipulations on how many they had to destroy every month, every year, etc. And so I got to go over to Moscow and did most of the modeling here, but went over to Moscow and got to present to the Russian general who was in charge of this project, and just to see his eyes light up when he saw the animation of a missile coming into the disassembly building, the warhead being taken off, the cutting up and destruction of the different elements, parts of the missile. It feels great when you can do something like that is going to make a huge impact on humanity.
And there weren't any big explosions, so I know that was successful. And if the Russian general, if you have a fur hat from Russia, then you really hit it out of the ballpark. Did he give you a fur hat?
Oh no, but I got to share vodka with him.
That's even better. That's even better.
That's what I was going to. Yeah.
So is there anything, we're going to kind of wrap this up. Is there anything you'd like to share with our viewing audience? Because we're going to post, how to get a hold of you guys, and we're going to post some video stuff. Anything you'd like to share that we didn't hit on today a little bit? I'll start with you, Dave, first.
I think we covered all the main parts. We tried to discuss a little bit about what process simulation is. It's really not difficult. As we said, the process simulator tool is pretty intuitive and easy to use. If people are interested in the software, they can let us know. And knowing that once they get the software, we don't just cut them off. If they have issues or concerns, we've got great tech support staff, great trainers and consultants, and really our goal is to make folks successful using our products. So we'll be glad to help. Anyone interested, let us know.
And I think the bigger the bigger picture, Dave, is just that simulation is another tool that really can speed up the velocity of making some good, well-founded decisions when you're curious about them.
It is, and especially for Lean and Lean Six Sigma programs, it really will help accelerate the completion of projects. There was one project last year that I'm familiar with. I was actually told about it and work on it. And because of the study of one model, it eliminated the need for about 35 weeks of planned Kaizen events. So they did basically a virtual Kaizen event using the simulation model and figured out the answers, and they didn't have to borrow people and throw them in rooms, which is very popular, and I've done a lot of Kaizen events myself, and that's still a great way to go. But simulation just cuts through a lot of the time required for a lot of the team activities we've done in the past. It's a great process improvement tool.
But I'm going to warn people. This is the warning from the Surgeon General here, is that you have to be kind of high up on the knowledge curve of just why you're doing Kaizen, why you're doing process improvement, because this tool alone, without the deep thought and the experience, isn't going to do it. So it's not something for some. This is as you get higher and higher and you start looking for other tools, but you know how to do it with pencil and paper and how to walk out there and make things happen. This isn't the solution, because you'll fall flat on your face that way.
It's just one tool, and it's not used to be used for every project.
Correct.
That's a great point. If you have some high volume, highly repetitive processes, and you have some data available, then it's a great and appropriate tool to use.
And in closing, Bruce, what do you have to say to our viewing audience?
Well, I would just like to encourage them to give it a try. That simulation is not as difficult as it was even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. If you think back to the original Lean Thinking book by Womack and Jones, there was a page in there that said, simulation really doesn't need to be used and shouldn't be tried. Just go out on the floor and do it. But as you alluded to in your own situation there, your example, you've got monuments, and you're not just going to rip those off of the floor and move them somewhere else. You've got to work within certain constraints. And simulation tools like Process Simulator and Promodel, they allow you to try those things before you go out and learn the hard way. And so my encouragement is just that people would give it a try, and I think they'll be very delighted.
Okay. Beautiful. I want to thank you guys for being on the Lean Nation today. We'll put up some posts, and hopefully we'll see you here in the near future.
Very good.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carl.
And you're listening to Lean Nation. We just had our guests Dave Tucker and Bruce Gladwin on with us from Promodel, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday. That's it for the Lean Nation. We're over and out.